Chicago's went through a pretty terrible drought in the 1870s, much like the rest of the Midwest. Another common theory is that it could have been a meteor shower. Yes, weather evidence from the 1870s also does suggest that meteorites had fallen here in the Midwest, igniting not only fires here in Chicago, but in other places like Peshtigo, Door County, Wisconsin. This big lumberyard fire happened almost the exact same time our city was burned to a crisp. Again, truth be told, could be a number of things or a combination of the two. We don't really know quite for certain, but if you remember anything from today, do know this: no cows started the Great Chicago Fire, so please tell all your friends to debunk the myth. Regardless though, Chicago was still pretty much destroyed after those 2 days of burning, but again, we're no small city. After spending 19 years of rebuilding our city, we decided to do something pretty bold. We decided to put our bid to host the 1893 World's Fair. Great opportunity for us to get some recognition back in our city. Thanks to our very persuasive, windy, windbag politicians, which side note is why we're called the Windy City too. Those politicians did such a good job filibustering for us to get the World's Fair. We were called the Windy City because of them. The fair we ended up hosting in 1893 was no small event. It lasted 6 months and attracted 28 million people. People came from all over to see these brand new inventions make their big appearance. Things like the zipper, diet carbonated cola, the Ferris wheel, among so many other cool things. We'll talk more about the fair and how it makes us as grandparents also on our flag too. It's one of those 4 red stars. We'll talk about that a little bit more later on. But before we miss it, I know we're moving past a black building off to your right. That's Lake Point Tower, folks. Before you miss it, it's 1968, Shipper and Heinrich. Lake Point Tower is the only private building built along Chicago's entire lakefront. The lawyers have pointed out that the building was built there before the actual ordinance was written on a piece of paper that protects our lakefronts against private buildings like this. Everything else next to the lake is free and clear for us to enjoy, besides that building. It was completed in 1968. The ordinance was written in 1971. It's a loophole situation, if you will. To your right, I call this a really great example of invisible architecture, which just means that there's nothing here. This blank spot to your right was a former site of the Chicago Spire. I don't know if anyone remembers the Spire project, but picture a 2,000-foot tall building going there. It didn't happen. The funding kind of fell completely through as soon as they dug the foundation for the building. We do have 2 buildings coming up there in the next few years. They'll both be residential towers. Skidmore, Owings, and Merrill will be those architects. Speaking of residential towers, off to your right, we got 2 of them. This is Riverview 1 and Riverview 2. Both buildings were designed by DiStefano and Partners in 2001 and 2004. You'll find 16 townhomes that surround the base of both buildings. Fun fact, one of the townhomes sold about 4 years ago for $3 million. That price tag gets you your own private 4-story townhome with your own elevator, rooftop deck, balcony, and private access to this public promenade right here along the river. Speaking of our promenade, you might have noticed our Centennial Fountain off to your right. It's been there since 1989. Dirk Lohan is the architect. Fountain is missing its key ingredient, water. The fountain has actually been broken almost all summer. We had a lot of rain back in June, which did something to the mechanicals in this fountain, just breaking it, I guess, for the entire summer. So if you need a reason to come back to Chicago next year, see the fountain, it's lovely. Maybe come on another boat ride, if you will. Also be quite lovely too. Moving along. To your right, we are looking at the Sheridan Hotel and Tower, designed in 1993 by Solomon, Cordwell, and Benz. The Sheridan is currently the 4th largest hotel. On the inside, there's a ballroom that's about 14,000 square feet, ginormous. The building on the outside, you might notice, is covered in this lovely dark green glass. And the green glass does its very purpose of reflecting the very color of the Chicago River. You might have noticed today that our river, you can look off, you can really see it right now, our river has a beautiful shade of green to it. Now the river gets its natural color because of a few variables. The river has a clay-based bottom, an algae that grows along the top of it, and we've got lake water from those locks every time they open. It all mixes together and it creates this natural, beautiful hue of green. However, there's always a however here in Chicago. If you're to come to our city on one particular day during the year, you will find this river not to be this exact shade of green. What day is it, folks? All across the boat. Yeah, St. Patrick's Day. Our plumbers union dumps bright yellow dye into our Chicago River, dyeing it this super fluorescent Shrek green. It is very bright and it's very Shrek for those of you that have seen it. The dye is a vegetable-based food coloring. It's good for the fish. It's very natural, but one of our most iconic traditions, hands down. Speaking of green things, there's a building above us here to your right with the green glass that juts out the outside of it. This is the University of Chicago Leisure Center, designed in 1993 by Dirk Lohan. By no means, this is not the main University of Chicago campus. They are on the south side in Jackson Park and Hyde Park specifically. School has produced more than 90 Nobel Prize winners, which is second only to Harvard. The teacher have to brag about that because that's insanely cool. Take a peek off to your right, right above the new Apple store. We got a really nice glimpse of Tribune Tower off to your right. This neo-Gothic structure to your right side here was the winner of the 1922 building competition to design the most beautiful building in the entire world. It was completed back in 1925. The architects are Raymond, Hood, and Howells. Neo-Gothic style. Beautiful flying buttress and other carving details on the outside. It's lovely, very beautiful. All right. The creme de la creme of Chicago architecture, of course, is exactly what we started right beneath. To your right, we are looking at the Wrigley Building, designed in 1924 by Graham, Anderson, Probst, and White. The Wrigley Building was the first official skyscraper built north of the river to be completely illuminated and air-conditioned. Directly above us here, though, folks, is the second tallest building on the entire Chicago skyline. This is the Trump International Hotel and Tower, designed in 2009 by Adrian Smith. The building tops out at a whopping 1,389 feet. Features many setbacks, parts that kind of push back and forth. That first setback above us actually complements the height of the Sun Times building that used to be here way before this building existed. The second setback on the top left side complements the height of the Wrigley Building behind us we just talked about. Don't break your neck, but the third and final setback is on the top right of this building. That actually complements the height of the American Medical Association, which is right next door. I think that's super cool. In architecture, that's called global contextualism, which means you can honor your surroundings in terms of how your building is designed. That's Adrian Smith. He's a fantastic architect. He designed the Burj Khalifa, the world's tallest building in Dubai. So, really cool. Next to us here, we are looking at the American Medical Association. Got some friends up there as well. Hello. Building here is formerly known as the IBM building for a long time. It's Mies van der Rohe, 1971. International style of architecture. Less is more. Not a lot of emphasis on those decorations. Quite different though, this very minimalistic approach to architecture are these next two buildings. A little more decorative, worthy of a photo or two. The Corn Cob Towers are the most photographed buildings in the entire city of Chicago today. It's no wonder why. Their actual name though is Marina City. Designed in the early 60s by Birch & Goldberg, I'll tell you, Birch & Goldberg believed no right angles exist in nature. So every apartment on the inside is shaped like a giant slice of pizza. The apartments are super narrow at the beginning, and the widest part is your balcony. You live in a pizza slice, which is like every Chicagoan's dream, I would assume. I will tell you though, I was giving this tour a few months ago, and after the tour, this couple had come up to me, we're talking about just buildings in the city. They said, Molly, we used to live in one of those corn cob towers for like 20 years. I'm like, that's so cool. Do you have any fun facts for me? They're like, yeah, it's really hard to furnish a pizza slice. And I'll totally believe it. Like the highlight of my summer, try fitting a couch in a pizza slice. It would be very difficult, so the more you know. The American Bar Association is off to your right, formerly known as the Quaker Oats Building, off to your right there. It's 2000s Skidmore, Owings, and Merrill. Over here, though, is the oldest remaining warehouse on the entire Chicago River. This is the Reed Murdoch Center, designed in 1914 by George Nimmons. Look very closely, folks. This building off to your right is asymmetrical. It is uneven. It's got 6 bays of windows on the right and only 5 bays or sections of windows on the left.
I hate that.
Now, the building used to be perfectly even on both sides. So we had to chop off the bay of windows over here because we were expanding the LaSalle Strait Bridge right above us. With all the increased traffic in Chicago, we expand a large majority of these bridges. To your right, we are looking at 300 North LaSalle, designed in 2009 by Picard and Chilton. Building to your right here is LEED Platinum certified, which is the equivalent of winning an Oscar for a building. LEED stands for leadership in energy and environmental design. The building over here on super hot days will actually siphon river water from below. That river water is circulated all throughout the building, and that's what cools it off. That water is cleaned, reduced